Hey guys, this is Courtney from Will's Bloom, and this is the AstroBiz podcast where we talk about astrology and business. And Will's Bloom is the parent of this podcast, and it's all about intentionally designing our life and business with the cosmos. Hey guys, this is the June Astrology Channeling episode, and I pulled a ton of cards for today because I wanted there to be a very clear message coming through because there's so much energy going on with everyone right now and it's been pretty negative, and I wanted to get really clear about where we stand right now and then where we're headed in the future. So I first want to mention that I pulled a spirit animal for this reading, and it was the deer. And the deer is about trust and trusting in the universe, trusting in the direction that we're going in, and trusting ourselves and the decisions that we make, and really holding ourselves accountable to what we want to achieve. So a lot about this right now is having faith in the overall purpose of this and the direction in which we're going. It does have to do with loss and renewal because the stag has antlers that fall off and then regrow in the spring and the fall. So it's possible that we're going through this period of loss to experience a rebirth. And it's funny because I pulled a card that talked about birthing a new age. And I also pulled one that was talking about imagine. So right now, in this period in June, we're going through a series of eclipses that are asking us to imagine what we want in the future and to redirect our lives. Because eclipses are kind of like this Uranus energy. It's calling us to make a change and to become more aligned with our purpose and our path. And they have long-lasting energy. So you feel eclipses for 6 months after they happen. You start to see the effects take place likely later on, but it's like the seeds are planted during the first eclipses. So during this June period, we're being asked to imagine what a new age in our lives will look like, both personally and on a more global level. And so a lot is happening in June. There's going to be, of course, the upcoming prenumbral lunar eclipse in Sagittarius on June 5th. This is kind of like a mini eclipse, but it's still going to have very strong energies. And what this is calling us to do is have a look at our belief systems. And I do believe this is about past events and not just about what's moving forward. It's like we're about to start a totally new chapter because the nodes just switched from Cancer and Capricorn to Sagittarius and Gemini. And so basically, as we're shifting into a new age and a new time, we have to decide what we're going to take with us on that journey. And so for this June 5th prenumbral lunar eclipse, what from the past are you going to let go of, release, heal through, and what are you going to take with you? And we can think about this on the collective level as well. There are tons of protests happening in the United States, and it's becoming clear that the way that we've done things up until this point no longer works. And I think we've known that for a very long time, but it's like now is a time to let it go. And there are birthing pains. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that birthing pain and what I pulled for the cards in just a second. But I want to draw your attention to the Jupiter and Pluto conjunction on June 30th. I mentioned in April 4th, that this happened, and it's also going to happen again on November 12th. This is a rare event. This doesn't happen every day. And so when these intense energies come together, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and Pluto, the planet of loss, we have a grave effect on the world. Like people, the problems expand, the issues expand, the death expands. But it's also a wonderful manifestation energy, and that's what I was talking about in April. And I love how it's paired with the Imagine card, because we are stepping and birthing into a new age. So there is a manifestation happening amongst the chaos and the death. So I just want you guys to always be aware that everything that's happening right now is a process of death and creation. So that the old things have to die off in order for the new things to take place. But we have to have one foot in either side, in both sides. Because if we just are focusing on what needs to be lost or left behind, then we won't simultaneously create the future with intention. So we need to have our mind in the future and in the past in order to help us let go and create what we want to see in the world. So I want you to be really conscious of the things that you're imagining and the things that you're releasing, because both of those are going to be so important right now. And you know that we are very much ending the chapter of this old cycle, and all of June is like this, because the whole 18 months of the nodes in Cancer and Capricorn, well, it's all finalizing on June 20th for the solar eclipse in Cancer, the very last one. Then from there, we're going to solely be in the Gemini and Sagittarius energy of the future. That doesn't mean that the transition period is over, but I think June is the strongest transition period out of all of them. And so when we have one foot in the future and one foot in the past, and when we're in this crux of the transition, it's always uncomfortable. You're just going to feel, strange. You're not going to have all the answers. The future is not clear yet. The past isn't gone yet. And so that's really the energy that we're in for all of June. An added layer to that is that Venus is retrograde, but it will go direct on June 24th. So during that period when Venus is retrograde, all of the aspects that are associated with Venus, all the beauty, the love, the harmony, the connection and the relationships with people, those darken. They become less at the forefront of our society. And so it's a lot easier right now to feel and to see the hate, the trouble, the chaos, and see less beauty in life. And I want to bring this back to the second set of cards I pulled, which was associated with beauty. And so I really feel like there are two events happening. So I have the current event, and then I pulled cards for the future events. So the current is the birthing of the new age, but the future is the beauty. So we are stepping into more beauty. We will create lasting change. But right now, we're in the process of birthing, which I said is a challenge. This is a karmic time. I pulled the Justice card. So this is super karmic. Poor George. I think that he came and incarnated in this lifetime as a martyr, as somebody who was sort of like the sacrificial lamb in order for this change to occur. And I mean, everything about that is so fucked up. But the point here is that I feel like this was always really written in the stars for us. Like this was going to happen. This was destined to happen. And on the back of COVID, I think people just were at their wits' end. It's like there's already so much tragedy in the world naturally. How can we inflict this upon our fellow brothers and sisters? And so I think that's all part of it. So besides the fact that this was always destined to happen, another card that I pulled was telling us to not conform, to stand your ground and pursue your purpose and cause, even if others don't see it, even if others don't understand it. And this is on a personal and collective level. So the feeling that I get with this, as well as the fact that Jupiter and Pluto will also be conjunct again in November 12th, the feeling that I get from this is that we are very much in a long-term battle. And I was hearing another astrologer talk about this, and she was saying right now we are experiencing like an explosive battle, but in reality, what we need to do is make this a war, because wars last a long time. And because change, true change that lasts the test of time, takes a longer period of time than like these quick battles and these quick protests where people get super violent for like a short period of time and then go home. That's not the kind of energy that we need right now. What we need is we need lasting change. We need people to stand their ground until change occurs. Like, we can't have people going home in a week as if this didn't happen. And I think that that's really what's being called, is for us to create change through perseverance, even if other people don't agree. And I pulled another card that represented that this would take root and we would be excited about the very beginning of this change taking place. So I feel like that's the energy that we're going to be experiencing, honestly, for the rest of 2020. But I think a lot of it is starting to happen now in June. That's like where one of our feet is in June. And then where the other foot is in the area of the beauty. How can we find more beauty in the world? How can we bring more of a connection to nature, to other people, and to our greater purpose in life? And one of the cards that I pulled was the Emperor, which is about authority and working with the rules. And for me, this felt like we were creating lasting change on the level of the law, of the government. And I don't see this being in June, but I see this coming up maybe, in 2021 as Saturn enters Aquarius more permanently. Saturn is the authority. It is the Emperor. And so when it enters Aquarius, which is the sign of the people, I feel like we're going to take that authority back for ourselves. But I think most of 2020 is like that fight, because, the government's not just going to step aside and let the people have the power. There's going to be a fight. And so that's kind of what we're working with for 2020. So we're being called to create this lasting change and to be hopeful for the future. I think that's so important. When we're imagining, we're being hopeful for the future and we're seeing more than what meets the eye right now. That is so important. We have to hold the energy of what we want in order for that to occur. So I don't want us to be so focused on holding our ground and fighting for what we want and be focused on the fight aspect, but not on what we want aspect. So it's going to be so important that we're able to keep a very clear head about exactly what we want, even in the face of emotional distress, even in the face of anger. And as Mars enters Aries on June 27th, there's going to be more of this reactionary, warrior-like, aggressive energy. So how can we hold a vision for the future while allowing this energy of anger and frustration and war to pump through our blood as well? And it's funny because at this same time, the sun is entering Cancer. And Cancer is the sign of compassion, of love, of nurturing, of the mother, of sensitivity, emotional and intuitive connection. And so it's interesting that we have the warrior, aggressive planet moving into its home sign, and then the sun bringing our focus to our emotions, to our softness. So again, it's having this balance between what are we creating, what are we stepping into, and how can we create more beauty, and how can we fight for what isn't just? How can we do both and channel both? I just wanted to mention the very last card that I pulled that's in line with the future and the beauty that we're creating. And it was talking about how we're going to manifest this change, but it's likely going to look different than we thought. And you can think about this on a personal level and a collective level. We're going to hold that vision and we're going to push for that. But we're also connected to our intuition, and we're also fluid and adaptive. And that's everything that Gemini and Sagittarius are about, is this ability to learn, to be open. And so our idea of what the world should look like will probably manifest a little bit differently than we expect or than we thought. But the way that it manifests is going to be exactly how it needs to be. And it's still going to feel good. And the reason I'm saying that is because sometimes we can become so rigid in exactly our terms for the way things should look, when there is actually a better way that we maybe can't even see ourselves. And this is because we're always thinking in terms of what's happened in the past and trying to create something that's maybe incrementally better in the future based off of that past reference. But true wisdom creates things that have never existed before, that have no reference point, that are not based off of the past. And so when we begin to manifest something that's entirely new, I want you guys to be open to change, to adaptation, and to things looking much differently than you thought they would. And you might even start getting some insights into this when Mercury sextiles Uranus on June 3rd. Mercury is a planet of our thoughts and communication, and Uranus brings that change. It breaks us free. It brings new and innovative ideas that are eccentric, that don't fall in line with the tradition and the past. And so if you have new ideas coming up around this time, I encourage you to go with them, to give them time, to allow it to digest, and to be open to that possibility. I guess the very last thing would be that Mercury is going retrograde on June 17th. Everyone freaks out about this, so I just thought I should mention it so you're aware. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, in the big scheme of everything that's going on, I think that that's one of the lesser important things. However, I do think it's a really great time to become more reflective, to take a back seat with our action a little bit, and really hone in on what exactly we're trying to create. I think that will be a really powerful period to reflect on how far we've come, where we're going, what we want, and then when Mercury goes direct again, we can push forward. Don't forget to check out willowsbloom.com. You can order a life purpose reading from me where we will cover what the stars say about you. And if you would like, I just opened a new offering for transits where we will look at a year of your transits and what's happening for you. And I also channel messages and pull cards for you for each month so that you guys have the tools to really understand what is energetically coming in for you and how to manage that. And I think that is so important during this time of upheaval and change and chaos. And so that's why I started offering this. It's on willowsbloom.com, so go check it out.